Hi, I'm John F. Allen. And I'm R.J. Sullivan. And we're the Two Towers.
So we've got the next episode, which is Chapter 7, The Reckoning. And this is was written by Jon Favreau and directed by Deborah Chow. And this has Jaren receiving a message from Grief Karga, who is Carl Weathers' character. Karga's town has been overrun by Imperial troops led by the client, who is desperate to recover the child. Now, let me interject about the client. We do know that you can tell from the very beginning that someone else is pulling the strings. He's not the big bad. He's meant to be the focal point for the forces of evil, but you can tell right away that there's someone else pulling his strings even before it's revealed later on. So just so we are clear on that, Karga proposes that Jaren use the child as bait in order to kill the client and free the town in return for allowing him and the child to live in peace. So basically, you come do me this solid and take out the client, then no harm, no foul. You and the little green baby can go on your way and we won't hunt you anymore. And so Karga secretly plans to kill Jaren and take the child to the client. So he's basically setting him up. Now, this was one thing that kind of disappointed me a little bit in his character, but then the nature of these bounty hunters is that, they have their objectives and that's what they do. But I kind of was thinking, Lord, I liked Grief Karga's character and I didn't want him to become an enemy. I didn't want him to become a bad guy, partly because of his character and partly because I wanted to see Carl Weathers again, because I thought, he did a good job with the character. Anyway, Jaren senses a trap. He recruits Cara Dune and Nick Nolte's character to assist him. And so the Nick Nolte character brings a rebuilt IG-11 reprogrammed to act as a nurse droid instead of a bounty hunter, despite Jaren's apprehension, because Jaren didn't like androids, and it goes back to when he was a child, and the bounty androids were killing his people and basically left him an orphan. So he has this deep-seated anger towards droids. Now, this IG-11 droid, you will remember him. He was the bounty hunter droid from the first
episode.
Yeah, he was the one, and so he is voiced by Taika Waititi, and Taika Waititi, if you don't know, is an actor and director from New Zealand, and he was the director of Thor Ragnarok. And he also was the rock creature that Thor was friends with in the arena. He did the voice for him. So definitely Taika Waititi's got a lot of geek nerd cred. So anyway, upon arrival to the bounty hunter village or whatnot, they meet with Karga and his associates, and en route to the town, they're attacked, and Karga's injured, but the child uses the Force to heal his wounds. Now, this is the turning point. This is the point where I saw Han Solo and Lando Calrissian when Lando had betrayed Han for the Empire and had to make a choice. And this was one of those kinds of situations that brought back the original trilogy to me when I saw this. So Karga shoots his associates, unable to go through with the trap, and is not going to betray Jaren after all. The group formulates a new plan. Karga will pretend that Dune is captured. Jaren and all three will enter the town to meet with the client, while Nick Nolte's character returns the child to the ship where IG-11 is waiting. During the meeting, the client receives a call from Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon, again, now he is introduced. We know he's the big bad now. He is the one that is the Darth Vader, so to speak, of this show. and he is expertly portrayed by Giancarlo Esposito, who many people may know. He was also in Breaking Bad. A lot of Breaking Bad actors in this show. He was also in School Days, which was one of the first Spike Lee films. He was Big Brother Almighty. For any of you guys that don't know that, and he was in a plethora of other things. He's a very talented actor. He's also in The Boys, playing the corporate big bad in that. So interesting. Anyway, he and his stormtroopers and death troopers surround the building and open fire, killing the client because they're like, "Look, you're expendable, dude, and we'll shoot through you to get to who we want to get." So anyway, Moff Gideon arrives and boasts that the child will soon be in his possession. And in the desert outside of town, 2 scout troopers track and kill Nick Nolte's character and kidnap the child. The last shot shows him, the Nick Nolte character, dead on the ground. Interesting to note, the stormtroopers, the scout troopers that kill Nick Nolte's character, interestingly enough, were inept. They were just like totally just dumb, and he almost got away, but of course they had a faster vehicle and they ended up killing him. So it's interesting that the IG-11 droid is now working with them, and that's going to be something that's set up definitely for future episodes. We're getting into the nit and gritty here with this episode. There's only one episode left, so it's ramping up towards this climactic end to this season, and it doesn't disappoint. I was extremely excited. I thought that the introduction of Moff Gideon and the stormtroopers and death troopers, I was right back again. I was that 9-year-old kid. I was like, oh man, it's about to hit the fan now. And one of the amazing things about Moff Gideon's character for me was that you believe this dude meant what he said. He meant what he was doing. He did. Hats off to Giancarlo Esposito. Just amazing actor. I think he did a wonderful job as Moff Gideon, and I think this was a very well acted episode, and I think this sets up things nicely. What did you guys think about it?
Go ahead, Ericka.
Oh my goodness. If I had to pick a favorite episode, I think it would be this one. This was, like you kept saying, the one that brought me back to that whole original Star Wars, because there was just thing upon thing upon thing happening all right in a row. And I really liked that this is where you get to see Jaren be smart. He's aware that this is the trap, and he's laying his plans. So he's bringing Cara Dune with him because he knows that he cannot trust this guy. And then to see how the events play out and then turn this enemy into an ally is also really good, especially when you're seeing it because of something that the child does. So the child now becomes less of a MacGuffin and more of an actual participant in the events. And so I loved the way that it all fell out, and I loved the introduction of Moff Gideon, and I think he is a fantastic foe to set up, and I am looking forward so much to seeing more from him.
Yeah, a lot of the same. I don't remember if I knew it was a 2-part ending. I kind of felt it in my bones if I wasn't aware. It just felt like they were going to go with 2 parts. I thought it was interesting that they saved the big bad until here we are at chapter 7. But I mean, he was worth waiting for, and I like the fact that you get a little bit. I think it's in this chapter. I know it carries over into chapter 8, as well, where you hear the stormtroopers and some of the men just kind of talking about him and all the things he's doing, and this, he's getting impatient, so he's killed a couple people, and you don't know if that's true or if that's just rumors out there, or is this dude really as nasty as all that, because we don't get any confirmation of a lot of that. But I loved that, to contrast it with the last episode, the action was kind of silly, and it was kind of fun, and it was just kind of, the fun little kid Star Wars stuff. But this is where things got really, really serious, and they were pinned down, and I wasn't sure how they were going to get out of it. And you just knew that this guy meant it. And I might be getting into chapter 8 a little bit, but I know there's a point where they negotiate, and he says, I'm not giving you any words that I'm not going to kill you as soon as you walk out. You just have no choice, and this is your situation, and you can come out now, or we can come in and get you later. And I mean, the cold-blooded calculation of it all, and then the fact that he could back it up with the weapons and the men, and just made for a very impressive introduction to finally getting to meet someone who's apparently going to be the main adversary of this series. And Darth Vader is a tough act to follow, but I mean, they're really going all in with this and creating, I think, a very credible threat. Of course I was sad, had the feels when Nick Nolte's character gets killed. I was hoping he'd stick around a bit longer, but I also very much appreciate the arc of the character and where he had gone. I like what they're doing with the IG 11 assassin droid, turning it into something that it's not programmed to do, and the questions that brings about, which may tie into some of these other conversations we've had throughout this episode, and a certain baby Yoda and some eggs. So I thought that all tied in very nicely. You can tell that this isn't stuff that they're just putting down without really thinking about the ramifications of it. And this was a really nice setup. And I feel for you, John, that you had to wait another week, because I only had to wait overnight. So
yes, well, these things happen. I will definitely say that Giancarlo Esposito as Moff Gideon, again, hats off to him. When you look at the Star Wars mythos and you look at the other Moffs, such as Moff Tarkin, who's portrayed by Peter Cushing back in the day, and then in Rogue One, they had a stand-in actor and used his voice, extrapolated over with CGI. He was he was imposing in his mannerisms, but less physically opposing in his gestures with regards to him actually physically taking you on. But Giancarlo Esposito's character of Moff Gideon, and this is going to get into chapter 8, which I think I have to say chapter 8 is going to be is vying with my favorite episode, which chapter 7, basically I take them as a package deal.
That's how I think of it too.
Yeah. 7 and 8, I had to take them as a package deal because there's too much in both episodes that just got me, geeking out. I mean, literally like speaking out loud and just geeking out. So, but I say that to say that Moff Gideon's character, and this will become more apparent as we talk about chapter 8, is a bit more imposing as a Moff than Peter Cushing's character Tarkin was back in the day, and you will see why. So that being said, chapter 8 is called Redemption. This is the 8th and final episode of first season, and it was directed by Taika Waititi. So again, he has a lot of input here, as well as being the voice for the IG-11. That being said, we've got Jaren, Cardoon, and Grief Karga are trapped. IG-11 rescues the child from the idiot scout troopers. The Mandalorian finds a vent into the sewers where he hopes to find his people's hidden stronghold. Moff Gideon gives him until nightfall to surrender, or he will order his troops to fire. The Mandalorian recognizes Gideon. Gideon had been an officer of the Empire's secret police when the Empire took over Mandalore. This serves, and this is me interjecting here. This serves to ramp up the antagonism between Jaren and Moff Gideon. There's a higher stake here because then when the Empire took over Mandalore, not only did they take over Mandalore as a planet or whatnot, but they also killed a lot of the Mandalorians. And I think this is going to tie into his childhood and his people and his parents. So this is going to give you another layer of the antagonistic nature of the two characters as the series progresses in future seasons. So the IG-11 arrives on a scout trooper's bike with the child, blasting through the stormtroopers. Jaren takes down several more, but is injured by Gideon as they take cover inside. Gideon orders a trooper with a flamethrower to burn them out. The child uses the force to reflect the flames back and immolate the trooper. Jaren and IG-11 remain behind while Dune and Karga take the child into the sewers. The IG-11 removes the Mandalorian's helmet to treat his injuries before they join the others in the sewers. Now, this was a very big point in this episode because we go back to the Mandalorian code that no one's to see them without their helmet, and he has this antagonistic attitude towards droids anyway. So this was like, I'm going to kill you, you don't take my helmet off. And he's like, look, dude, your mission's too important and you can kill me later, but we got to get you taken care of. And that goes into the reprogramming of the IG-11 droid. So I thought that was an interesting scene in this episode. And then when they arrive at the Mandalorian Enclave, they find it abandoned except for the armorer. And the armorer is like when you play those games and you get to the point where you're the save point where you're speaking to the guide. Like if you've ever played any video games, that you get to the guide and they give you this information to help you onto your journey. That's what this armorer feels like to me. I felt like I was in a video game, which ramped up my excitement even more. I was just geeking all over the place. I was watching this episode with my then fiance, now wife, and my mother, and they were both looking at me like I was insane because, they were like, you're a grown ass man and you're acting like a little child geeking out over this, but I couldn't help myself. Anyway, the armor explains that the Imperials found the Enclave when the Mandalorians revealed themselves. Upon seeing the child who saved the Mandalorian from the Mudhorn, the armor is reminded of the Jedi, who Mandalorians see as their ancient enemies. This goes back into the whole war that went on years ago between the Jedi and the Mandalorians. She charges Jaren to take the child to the Jedi, wherever they might be. So this gives him a more clear path on his journey with the child, but it also gives him specific people to look for. She also carves a Mudhorn sigil into his spalder, which is like his shoulder plate, and gives him a jetpack. While the armor remains behind, the Mandalorian, Dune, Karga, IG-11, and the child escape down an underground lava river IG-11 elects to sacrifice himself by walking into an ambush and activating his self-destruct mechanism. After they emerge from the tunnel, Gideon attacks with the TIE fighters he arrived in. The Mandalorian uses his jetpack to fly up to Gideon's fighter and plants explosives, which knock the craft out of the air and into the desert. With the Imperials seemingly dealt with, Karga invites the Mandalorian to return to the guild, but he refuses because he has to take care of the child. Dune elects to remain behind and work with Karga as an enforcer, and the Mandalorian buries Nick Nolte's character beneath a cairn of stones and returns to his ship for the journey to come. And he and the child leave, and Gideon. So this is the part that had me hooping and hollering like some idiot, because Gideon is downed in that TIE fighter, and they show it, and I think there were some there were some Jawas or Raiders or whatnot that were around, and they think, oh well, we're going to salvage this or whatnot, and then you hear something from the inside, and you see that there's this thing that's burning, this like escape port from the damaged, the down TIE fighter. And then you see Moff Gideon come out, and he is holding the Darksaber. Oh my God, I almost lost it all. I was like, wow, this is the Darksaber. This ties everything from the Clone Wars and from the Rebels all into this, and this opens up a whole new chapter with all these other characters that were introduced in the Clone Wars animated series and the Rebels animated series, and you're going to see these people in live action. I was just floored. I was just like, oh my God, and I've got to wait to the second season. I lost my mind. I was like, I can't wait this long. What am I going to do? So I just wow, I was just, I was so excited. And I guess this show has been one of the most exciting things to happen to me for television in quite a while. And so kudos to Jon Favreau, to Disney, to Dave Filoni, Taika Waititi, and Rick Famuyiwa. All of the cast, the crew, they made this into something that I will find myself probably watching and rewatching over and over and over and over again. I'm really excited about it. So now that I've geeked out all over the place, what did you guys think about this episode?
Go ahead, Ericka.
Oh my goodness, I think geek out is the right word. I was having so much of a geek out the entire time that this episode was on. Just everything about it seemed to just fall so beautifully into place. And I know that the chapter 7 was my favorite, but this one really felt like an extension of it. Like, of course, this is how it worked out. Of course, you have this deep character development of him watching this, him having to come to trust this droid with his established distrust of them, and having to have that sacrifice be the only thing that saves him twice, actually. And then to see him jump into action and jump on that TIE fighter was just amazing. So I just could not get over this episode. It was just amazing. And then, of course, that shot at the end with the Darksaber, you're just like, why do I have to wait an entire year to see the next part of this? I mean, that was the scene that literally had me counting the days until the second season started.
I know, right? I was just like, oh.
Yeah, I could probably just echo everything you two said, except for the Darksaber part, because I'm going to admit it, I didn't know what that was. I've not watched all the animated shows and stuff. I watched a good chunk of Rebels, but I didn't quite get it done. So I was clueless. I just thought it was a badass looking lightsaber, and that was I was happy enough with that. So
I'll admit, it took me a little bit for the connection to click.
okay,
But
so someone summarize the connection really quick, so I get get what it is. Mr. Allen, can you answer this one?
Yes. So Mandalore, who was like the first Mandalorian, like their, that started their whole order, that was just like the first of their order or whatnot. He, on the planet Mandalore, he had created he was force sensitive, and he created a lightsaber. It was called the dark saber. And the dark saber was like supposed to be handed down to the people who would be the rulers of Mandalore. So this is very much steeped into their whole mythos and everything that they hold sacred. But it also gives you a tie to the Jedi and the Mandalorians, because they were both warrior races. And although they had their issues, when it came to the Empire, they were like, okay, well, homie, we bug what we were doing. We got to come together and fight these dudes, because they're going to destroy everything. And so that's when you had this like merging of them coming together, because the Empire was just evil incarnate. And I'm not going to get political, but so much of these things echo into what our present lives are. But I digress. Back to this. The Darksaber was something that was supposed to be handed down to the ruler of Mandalore, and was supposed to be something that was going to reunite them, whoever possessed this particular weapon. Now, the weapon was last time anybody, if you're familiar with any of the Star Wars mythos, the last time anyone saw the Darksaber, it was in the possession of one Bo-Katan. And Bo-Katan was descended from the house, the line of the ruling line of the Mandalorians, and the Mandalorians rather. And so it was her birthright. It was two of them, her and her sister. Her sister got killed, but she's like the last of the line. And so she's a Mandalorian. She's a bad ass. I mean, you hear me? Like, there's just like when you were watching The Walking Dead and you saw Michonne come into the scene, you were like, oh shit, it's about to hit the fan now. So that is who she is.
I got you.
And not to be spoilery, because if you've been paying attention or whatnot, but in the second season, she's introduced on the show. Now, here's the thing that's really most important about this whole thing with the Darksaber and with Bo-Katan. On the Clone Wars, she was voiced by none other than Katie Sackhoff, who you may know as Starbuck in the new iteration of the Battlestar Galactica, or on Longmire, if you watch that show. She's been also on The Flash.
Yes.
So she's been, she's immersed in geekdom. So anyway, she was the voice for Bo-Katan on that show, on the Clone Wars. Guess what? She's playing that character live action. It couldn't be more perfect. It couldn't be more awesome than that. And if you know her as an actress, you know that she's kicking ass. I'm so excited. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Okay, say something.
Well, for the record, if you didn't know all that history, it was still pretty badass.
Right.
It's still really cool to see. Oh, hello.
Can you hear me?
Are we back?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes, I can, John.
Okay. Are you there, Ericka?
I'm here.
All right.
All right.
Well, let's break back in. Short pause. Well, for the record, even if you didn't know all that, it was still badass to see, because I didn't know any of that history and I just thought it was cool. So I just have to mention the digression with the two stormtroopers at the beginning of episode 8 was probably one of the most awesome moments I've seen on television in a very, very long time. One of the things I liked about going all the way back to the first Star Wars are where you just see the stormtroopers just kind of chit-chatting with each other, and you got a sense that these were people who, you know, maybe they got drafted, maybe they didn't necessarily get the assignments they wanted, maybe their heart wasn't always into it, and they were just people who had lives to get back to, and they were kind of punching a clock a lot of the time. And I think that's kind of gotten lost through the years, and this kind of brought some of that back. It's just these are just two guys who they just want to get to the end of their day and you know, get to whatever pub that they were at before they had to be on duty or whatever. And they were kind of a little incompetent. They didn't really know what they were doing, and you know, things end up not going well for them. But that, I just love the fact that they took 5 minutes just for nothing but dialogue with these two schlubs that are there, you know, trying to guard something and just not really sure what the big picture is, but just, you know, you kind of know that so many of them are like that. And I just thought that was such a great moment.
I couldn't help but die laughing when they couldn't hit anything in target practice.
Yes, that was speaking the quiet part out loud there.
Reinforcing the fact that none of the stormtroopers or the scout troopers or any of the troopers could hit the broadside of a barn.
That was amazing. That was so funny.
And
it was, yes, it was so. I just love the fact that the episode was so serious and it was so poignant in so many ways, but they took the time to work in this little fan service that I know so many people who watched it appreciated, and I certainly did when we got there. So I guess it's ratings time, John.
Well, one more little tidbit of information for since you brought that particular scene up. One of the things that I guess pissed a lot of people off, since we're talking about people's reactions to things, was when they punched Baby Yoda, when they punched the child. It had everybody on the internet like, oh my God, they punched the poor baby. And it's just ironic that they were saying that then. And then when the baby eats a few eggs, then it's like they want to, cancel the child.
But didn't they just murder a dude?
It just goes to show you how fickle some people are. I just can't. I just can't with folks. It's just too much. It's like, okay, make the stupid stop. Make it hurts. It makes my brain bleed. Anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Okay, so the ratings. We give Towers 5 towers. I don't even have to think about it. I mean, it just, what's there to think about? If you didn't know that I was going to give this 5 towers when I first started talking about it, then you weren't paying attention. 5 towers. And I mean, if I could give it more, I would, but 5 towers, and they're 5 towers. What about you, RJ?
There you go. Yeah, 5 towers. I mean, I was going to be coy about it. I was going to let Ericka go first, but sorry, Ericka. I guess the pressure's on you. Ericka, what do you give the show?
Well, 5 towers, of course.
Okay.
What else is there to give it?
I guess technically we gave it 15 towers. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Woo! Well deserved.
What did you think I was going to give it, knowing me? It's Star Wars, and it's like the best Star Wars in a really long time. So
it really is. That's very true. Yeah, it's almost like an apology for recent years, in some ways. Not that I've written off the last 3. I don't know how often I'm going to revisit them, but they to me ultimately they were a bit disappointing. So that's a whole other conversation for another time. But this really was like the, hey, Star Wars is legitimately back now. It definitely has that feel. It's what you were hoping when this whole thing started.
One analysis of that which I think is really important, is the fact that the episodes.
Are we still here?
Can you hear me?
I'm still here.
John?
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Dear. You were gone for several seconds.
Okay, well, I'll start back over. One of the things, well, let me do 5 seconds so I can have a cutoff point. One of the things that is interesting to note with regards to the episodes, and I'm talking about the films, it seems as though the ones that retread the original trilogy or revisit those characters or characters adjacent to them seem to be the ones that don't do as well or aren't as well liked by fans. But when in this series, they've taken new characters that are just set in the Star Wars universe and spin them out of things that may have happened in the original trilogy, and then more specifically the animated shows that is doing so well and is garnering a bunch of interest and spinoffs from this show. So I think that in my opinion, they should have left Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, and all of them pretty much alone. And I'm not saying I didn't want to see them again, but what they offered was disappointing, and I would have rather have not had it than had what we had if they couldn't have done it better. If that makes any sense. And that's not to say I disliked all 3 films from the Rise of Skywalker. As they weren't as good as I wanted them to be, especially the last one. But I liked the characters, but I didn't like the writing of the characters and what they did with the characters, some of them more specifically than others. And it could have been handled a whole lot better, in my opinion, from a writing standpoint. And I would have liked to have seen better if you were going to revisit iconic characters such as Leia, Luke, Han, Chewie. If you're going to go there, you need to come strong. And when they went back for the Attack of the Clones, it was hit or miss in some aspects. I liked the story, the writing, and certain things better in those movies, but I thought that the acting suffered for some of the characters that were introduced, and that dragged the story down. So I'm just glad that we've got something that everybody, basically all Star Wars fans, can be really, really excited about and almost unanimously love again.
Yeah. I love the original trilogy. Everything else after that, I think, has been, and it depends on which movie we're talking about. But this is the first thing that feels like the old Star Wars to me again, and I welcome that. So I'll just leave it at that.
All right.
Well, I think you hit on a pretty good thing. The Mandalorian is not suffering from the weight of expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It can be what it wants to be without having to be burdened by all of the canon and non-canon and gotten rid of canon and rewriting and revising and changing of the narrative that's happened in the main line of the Star Wars movies.
Right. And then even in that, it still manages to tie it in so well to the original trilogy that it's like they didn't miss a step, which I found amazing. Hello, are you guys still there?
Yeah. Ericka kind of hit upon it. There was a whole other expanded universe series of books that had moved things forward in a completely different way that I was very much a big fan of. And but that's a conversation for another time. This is something that is fresh. It's in a beloved universe, but they can tell new stories, and I look forward. obviously we're going to do this with season 2 very soon, as soon as it wraps up, and it's going to be a lot of fun. This was a really fun afternoon, and I'm glad to spend it with you two people today.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it all. Two of my favorite people, and also my favorite Star Wars show ever. And I say show because nothing's going to replace the original trilogy. But yeah, this is the best Star Wars we've had in over 40 years. So yeah, definitely. I want to thank everyone who's tuned in to these episodes, and I want to make sure that we're giving a shout out to our networking sponsors, Nerddom United. If you don't know, please check them out. They are on Facebook. Give them a look. It's well worth it. And I just want to ask our listeners to tell us what you think about The Mandalorian Season 1 and about where the Star Wars franchise is moving ahead to the future. And let us know if you liked the episode. Give us a thumbs up if you did. And we want to hear from you what you thought, and get your guys' opinions on these on this show. So I always like to let people know, if you want to find out what's going on with me or what I've got going, you can always check out my website, johnfallenauthor.com. And where can they find you, RJ? Hello?
John, you better do your website again. It was breaking up pretty bad there toward the end.
Okay, 5 seconds and then I'll start. As I always like to give people an avenue to see what I've been up to or what's going on with me, you can take a look at my website, johnfallenauthor.com. And where can they find you, RJ?
You can find me at rjsullivanfiction.com. That's all one word. Learn about my writing and several other things I've been up to. Most recently, trying to get my novels back out there after they've been unpublished for a while. And Ericka, how can people find more about you?
You can always go to my blog page at erickakahler.wordpress.com or look me up on my Amazon author page.
Excellent.
Ericka, go ahead. Ericka, go ahead and spell that real quick.
My name is Ericka Kahler, Ericka, and the last name is Kahler.
Very cool.
All right. Well, that about wraps everything up. I want to thank our listeners. I want to thank our guests. Wonderful having you here. I don't know about RJ, but I'm willing to make you an honorary tower. That's what we give honor to tall people who are guests. And so if you would be gracious enough to accept the honorary tower, becoming an honorary tower with us. Ericka?
Thank you.
All right.
We will be doing this again sooner than later for sure.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up everything, folks. Thank you for tuning in.
We back up again.
Yes.
I missed quite a bit of that last bit, so.
Okay. What I was saying, you mean?
We're not hearing you, John.
All right. I appear to be back, I think. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what you didn't hear before was me just wrapping up the show from the point of thanking everyone for tuning in?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Well, that's
And
about
we didn't
it.
quite catch the. We. Oh, I'm so sorry. I walked over you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we didn't quite catch. You said something about a honorary third tower, but I didn't quite get where you were going with that. Or
Okay,
was that the point?
Yeah, I'll start that over again.
Okay.
5 seconds. And again, I want to thank our guest for being with us. It's been a pleasure having you on our show. And I wanted to extend the offer of you being an honorary tower, if you would so graciously accept that. You don't have to do anything, but, just a shout out.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
All right. Well,
We'll have to come up with pins or something.
all right. Well, that about does. You want a pin? Okay. Well, we'll get you a pin. Maybe even throw in a mug or something like that. How's that?
There you go.
All right. Good. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we appreciate you. We do this, and we want to hear from you. So drop us a line, give us a like, and until next time, bye.
The Two Towers Talk Show is sponsored in part by Showtime Cinema in Mooresville, Indiana. Their friendly staff is always willing to go the extra mile to make your movie-going experience an enjoyable and memorable one. Enjoy the comfort of their new cushioned seating in their spacious auditoriums, and while you're there, be sure to stop by the concession stand and purchase some popcorn where real butter topping is an option. They're located at 300 South Bridge Street in Mooresville, Indiana. We hope to see you at the movies.